boy, man. Now this I can get behind. Today we're talking about one of the teams that finished at the bottom of the NHL standings last season, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and we're going to be going over their coaching situation. Because you had yourselves Brad Larson, who was announced earlier back in April that he would not be returning as the Blue Jackets head coach. He was relieved of his duties back in this time frame. And because there's a conversation or two going around about who the Blue Jackets could hire next, I thought it would be very intriguing to go out there and talk about some of the names that have emerged as a result. Now, sure, this type of a video is not new, it's not special. We talked about this with Toronto, we had talked about this with a whole bunch of other teams over the past few years. Anytime there's an executive spot to be filled on an NHL team, you can make a video about it. But the reason we're talking about Columbus and the reason we're talking about their head coaching is because there are two names that have emerged as candidates that I thought were really, really intriguing to the point that we just kind of had to combine them together and make the video about it. Let's head over onto a post made by Larry Brooks on Twitter that goes over one of the names we're talking about here. This tweet was from May 23rd, so just a few days ago. I've heard an intriguing name attached to the Blue Jackets if Mike Babcock is not hired there. Yeah, pause. Mike Babcock, I guess you could say, is a candidate as well. This would be a long shot for sure, but I'm told that Sergei Fedorov could be in the mix. And that, by itself, is a video topic, because Sergei Fedorov is an NHL legend, at one point in time regarded by some as probably the most purely talented player on the planet, and a guy who was a former Blue Jacket. Now, it's not even just Larry Brooks going out there and talking about this. There was an article on FirstOhioBattery.com published by Kobe Mayer talking about how hiring Sergei Fedorov would be a shock, but he is qualified to be the next Blue Jackets head coach. The article cites a quote from Aaron Portzline from The Athletic saying this, in regards to Fedorov, "Wouldn't this be a fascinating hire? Fedorov, 53, has followed his legendary playing career, which included 3 seasons in Columbus, with an impressive career as manager and coach in Russia's KHL. His CSKA Moscow club is back in the Gagarin Cup final this year, and he has 1 more year in his contract with the KHL. It's unclear if he desires a return to the National Hockey League." And this indeed was the case here. Fedorov was the head coach of CSKA Moscow for a while, and this previous season, I mean, look, CSKA Moscow is always a good team, and with Fedorov being the GM, the senior advisor, and the head coach for this team at different points in time, definitely shows that Fedorov just kind of knows his way around the game to building good teams and doing what needs to be done. He also coached Team Russia internationally this season as well. And if you jump back over onto the article on FirstOhioBattery.com, it goes over a few of Fedorov's accomplishments, how he was the head coach of CSKA, and how he had a really good NHL career, 3-time Stanley Cup champion, Selke Trophy winner Art Ross, and I mean, yeah, he was a very, very good player. In fact, this is also a very good piece of trivia. You see, this article was posted onto the Blue Jackets subreddit, and Jeff Wolf has the top comment here. Perhaps my favorite bit of Blue Jackets trivia here. Sergei Fedorov is the first Hockey Hall of Famer to play forward for the Blue Jackets, and he's also the first Hockey Hall of Famer to play defense for the Blue Jackets. It'd be wild if he had won coaching awards as a Blue Jacket as well. Now, of course, I mean, Sergei Fedorov played such a good defensive game that him being used as a defender was not a bad thing. He could play the position pretty well. But after his days in Columbus, he went over to Washington, played in the KHL to round out his career, and then became the CSKA guy. And so with Sergei Fedorov and his contract expiring soon, there is some sort of a potential shot that says, hey, if he wants to come back, there may be a spot in Columbus that has his name on it. It really just depends on if he's willing to take that choice. Next up, we have ourselves another conversation on a guy that really came out of nowhere here. It's Elliotte Friedman on the most recent edition of Sportsnet's, what do you call this? This was the period intermission for Dallas Vegas, I'm pretty sure. And Friedman, in the post, had himself a quote that I thought was really intriguing. This was also posted on the Blue Jackets subreddit. If there's one team I believe that may have reached out to talk to Patrick Waugh, I think it might have been Columbus. Now, Patrick Roy is the other guy we're talking about in this video, and this is maybe the entire antithesis of what a Sergei Fedorov coaching profile would look like, where Fedorov was known for his composure and the poise on the ice, which I'm going to assume translates into his demeanor off the ice. You have Patrick Roy that's the complete opposite, an absolute hothead, a guy who's willing to go out there and yell his head off, scream his lungs out, and bang on the glass in between the two benches. We've seen this before. And his coaching style is so aggressive that at points throughout the season where he was the Avalanche coach, you had seen him pull the goalie with like 10 minutes left in blowout games because he didn't want the other team to get the shutout. Like, he's got a really interesting style. But you can't go out there and say that Patty Roy is not one of the most influential hockey players to have ever played the game, one of the best goaltenders of all time. I think there's more so a consensus that says that in terms of pure raw talent, he may be the second best goalie of all time behind Dominik Hasek, and I guess if you wanted to include Tretiak, because he's kind of the wild card in any sort of discussion revolving around this topic. But Elliot Friedman's going out there and laying it on the line. Patrick Roy might have just been contacted, or he may be soon to be contacted by the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's going to be really interesting to see what this type of a style could do with a Blue Jackets team that's really looking to bounce back in an offseason where you're going to get the third overall pick, so you're probably taking, let's say, Leo Carlsson, for example. You're looking for bigger, better things out of guys like Cole Sillinger, Kent Johnson. You still got Johnny Gaudreau, who had signed the past year. And if you're really able to get the best out of all these guys, you could bounce back more ways than one and really make sure you don't finish second last in the league anymore like you had done this previous year. Is Patrick Roy to go out there and do that properly, motivate this team properly, yell at this team, and just go completely unhinged off the rails to the point that they actually start to do well? Maybe. I mean, Patrick Roy is really intricate about his details, and he is very forceful in enforcing what it is he thinks the team should be able to do, so who knows? Maybe. Patrick Roy, Sergei Fedorov, you can let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. What are your opinions about either of these two guys? Now, of course, Sergei did have the stint in Columbus when he was a player, so there's more of a connection there with this city and this guy. Of course, Patrick Roy never played for the Blue Jackets. He had been a Canadian and an Avalanche guy, so we all kind of know Patrick Roy anyway. So it's a really weird conversation to bring up, two NHL legends independently potentially being the next coach for the Blue Jackets, but I want you to let me know in the comments all your opinions about these two guys. Who would you rather have? If it boiled down to either of these two, if it's not Mike Babcock or whatever, who would you prefer on your team more? Patrick Roy or Sergei Fedorov? Blue Jackets fans, let me know what you think. If you're a fan of the Colorado Avalanche and you want to share some insight as to how Patty Roy likes to do his thing, then hey, the comment section is your floor. If we happen to have any CSKA Moscow fans in the comment section below, then share your opinions on Fedorov. What are your thoughts on how he does his thing and how he'd coach in the NHL should he be given that opportunity? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.